I welcome all the panelists on this session, which I will take today in this session, ensuring your trades. And I also welcome all the viewers who are viewing this session. And I hope that we have got a very experienced and learned panel with us. So I am sure that the viewers will get a very good understanding of the issue we are going to discuss. They will be getting a good information, and their issues may be resolved. If they got any questions, they may give the question in the question and answer box, and we will try to see their answer. So to start with, I will request the panelists to introduce themselves. We can start with Mr. Anand. Mr. Anand, we can start with you. You can please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Pramod, and thank you, Garima, and good to see the panelists. A great occasion to be here this evening. Well, I'm Anand. I am working as Group CFO in Dubai. I've been a CFO, Group CFO for the last 10 years. Now, what is my core expertise? And well, I have been handling diversified businesses, manufacturing, contracting, construction, trading, retail, FMCG, health sector, petroleum. So folks, give me a business, I will handle. Give me a business, I will handle. In this today's session, probably I'm going to bring the perspective, not as an insurance specialist, but probably as a group CFO who's been handling diversified businesses. And one of the key areas to navigate is also to ensure your trade. And as a professional, I love professional speaking. So as and when I get an opportunity to share my views, I do participate, do share it, what I'm doing now. And I hope we have a great session and the audience enjoy it.
Mr. Abhishek.
Thanks, Pramod ji. Hello, everybody. I am a Chief Risk Officer of ETG Group. ETG Group moves around 15 million tons of commodities across the countries, around 42 countries. Recently, we started the Risk Solutions division around the insurance, building the ecosystems. Because as we will discuss in the panel, that the insurance and reinsuring the business has moved from the typical underwriting to creating an ecosystem. So within ETG, we have started EIR as the risk management solutions and the insurance ecosystems company. And in the next 1 hour, we are going to understand it from the insurance intermediary perspective, insurance consulting, and as a risk officer, what are the asks from the trading company perspective. We are trying to touch along with other panel members around these three basic themes.
Thank you, Abhishek. Mr. Bilal.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. I am Bilal, and I represent insurance consulting company by the name of Howden Insurance Brokers, which is a UK-based company, and I look after in India the trade credit part, pan-India, right? So wherever you have your receivables, right, and there is a likelihood of the non-payment or the insolvency of the buyer, right, I try and get that receivables insured through various insurance companies available here in India, right? So during this very session, as Abhishek rightly said, that insurance is no more just a job, but it's an ecosystem which has to be developed, right? So I'm looking forward for this session. And during this session, I would like to get enlightened through the experienced panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bilal. Mr. Anwar Hassan.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. My name is Anbar Hassan. So it will be difficult for some of you to pronounce my name. My name is Anbar Hassan. I am working with ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. Formerly, it was Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India Limited. It's a Government of India organization. It's under Ministry of Commerce. So we have been dealing the credit insurance from 1957. So we have been giving cover to the exporters as well as to the bankers. So I have joined in this company in 1991. So almost 30 years I am going to complete in this organization. I am elevated to executive director last 6 months back. So I am taking care of operation of the company. That means underwriting and claims, both I have been taking care. So related to trade credit or the insurance, I will be talking about then how the risks are in the export business, how we are covering. So what is the risk in covering the some countries like USA, UK, and then Southeast Asia, and all these things we will discuss. You can raise whatever question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I am Pramod Kumar Bindalesh. I am a chartered accountant with more than 40 years experience. I have superannuated from SEBI, a chief general manager, and have been involved in various policy initiatives along with that other activities that like the investigation, adjudication, policy formulation. Everything has been involved with that, and I am a proud participant of the liberalization and the reforms that have taken place in the capital market, and we can proudly say that now our capital markets are not less than in any other capital market in the world, and we have worked a lot for that, and a lot of reforms have taken place. And but I have got experience of the industry also. I have worked with Indian Oil Corporation for about a decade, so I have a vast experience in the area. The insurance, though, is a new area for me. I have not worked core in the insurance sector, but I have interacted with a lot with the IRD. Because we the co-regulators and in so many matters, and we to coordinate. So I have that. So now we start with this session, that is insuring your trade. So when we see the insurance issue, we find that last year was a very, very typical year where a lot of troubles came, and the insurance comes to the mind that yes, this is an issue which is need to be discussed and debated. What happened actually, and this year also, the starting we are saying that how the Suez Canal was blocked by the Ever Given ship, and raising all issues about the insurance, insurance and how they impacted. So I will start with Mr. Anand. Just to let us know that how was the insurance segment in the last 1 year? How it has been in the last 1 year? What are the governments taken place? What are the issues that emerged?
Yeah, I think before I go deep dive in to answer your question, Pramod, it's important to spend a couple of minutes on what exactly has happened in the COVID times in terms of business. Now, I believe as Group CFO handling diversified businesses, three major things have happened. First, risk assessment, risk perception. That itself has gone a big time change. You know, you look back a year back, probably we all guys will be talking about risk. It's a 12 months horizon, or maybe more than that. Risk probably will be, are you going to go for merger? Are you going to go for acquisition? Should you go for a different expansion? Those sort of things. I've never seen in my almost 28 years of career where risk nowadays as good as today, as good as 3 months. So a big change in terms of the risk perception, risk assessment. That's one. Second, the going concern of the business itself has undergone a change. Today, you're talking about risk to manage a going concern. Survival is an issue. Now, again, this is a big time change. None of us knew it before the COVID. And third big time change, which I have seen, and mainly because I handled 6 to 7 businesses in my current role. So the people have made mistakes of equating this risk assessment and the going concern, across same for every business. Now that doesn't work. One size doesn't fit all. You can't wear a same shirt for all. So what works for trading doesn't work for manufacturing, and what works for manufacturing, Pramod, doesn't work for construction. Now, this is a paradigm shift which has happened. Now, whether you look for insuring your trade or anything else, you need to be constantly be aware of these three paradigm shifts which have happened across the businesses globally in the last 12 months. So now let me go back to your question and answer specifics on that with this paradigm shift. When I look at insurance handling my businesses, well, I feel definitely changes. For example, the big corporates, they anyway had a good coverage before that. Because for them, before COVID also, insurance was to manage risk. So they were not bothered about the cost. But I've seen here in UAE and across my professional fraternity, many of the SMEs, many of the small, mid-sized corporate businesses had a very tough time simply because they were not adequately covered. They were simply not adequately covered. Because for them, it was a cost that killed them literally. For example, policies like business interruption, I find corporates, mid-sized corporates, SMEs didn't have it. So what happened? Well, the businesses were completely wiped off. That's an impact. Then you had some of the policies which were there, but they were never tapped because no one recognized the importance of it. Business interruption is one, as I mentioned. The other was the marine policy. Most of the corporates were going from port to port because there was never a challenge. Once the goods reach the port, you can take a clearance and get out. But with the delays in the shipment across the globe, the policy like inland transit, which existed historically, was there, but you certainly find it was required. So different policies which were there got it. And then you have the credit risk, the trade insurance, which I said small and mid corporates for the cost purpose never insured the trade receivable and had a tough time managing the receivables. The third change which I find, folks, is something pertaining to the employer and the employees, because the employees have also been very concerned about their health. So there's a renewed vigor from the employees on the employers to cover them for medical insurances, critical illnesses cover, unemployment benefits, and everyone is thinking about it. And the beauty is, yes, employers also recognize because they need a team which is absolutely motivated. So that's something which is happening. The fourth change which I have seen, Pramod, is that there have been a government intervention, across a lot of countries, which has made insurances to revisit something like COVID. And this sort of medical coverage, which coming from the government insurance are facing. And the fifth change, which I've seen, is in the insurance landscape. I believe in the times to come, as happens in most of the businesses, consolidation might happen, and which may have a situation where the big corporates in insurance, the big insurance houses, will still have their pie and eat it too, but the small insurance companies will really find it challenging. So basically, you have new policies which are now being tapped. There's a challenge for small and mid corporates to revisit the insurance focus point. There's a renewed vigor from the employer and the employee to cover the employees. And finally, the insurance landscape itself, I believe, is going to undergo a big time change. This is what I believe has happened in the last 12 months.
Thanks, Anand. You have covered a lot of area into that, what kind of changes taken place in the last 1 year. Mr. Abhishek, I come to you that what do you think the COVID has made the impact on the insurance industry, and how the regulatory authorities have dealt with that? I am also being a regulator for a long time. So I was saying, are you feeling comfortable that how the issues have been dealt with by the regulatory authority and how the COVID issue has emerged in the insurance sector and what kind of changes it brought in the insurance arena?
Okay. See, let's look at from the two perspectives. One, of course, I'll split your questions into two parts. Let me take the second one first. How the regulators have responded to the basic premise of any risk event happening. Like any regulator, every regulator has the upward learning curve and maturity curve. The regulators across the countries have moved towards the risk-based profiling of the tariffs in the various countries. Now that applies to two things. One is the general products, which is specific to the various insurable risk of the kinds of marine assets, vehicle insurance, etc. Then is a medical cover. Now, when the product is specific and is more structured, the regulators have defined the rules of the game much more clearly. When we say the rules of the game, if it is a medical insurance, for example, if I go back to IRDA, IRDA specifically said that each insurance company has to, by default, within the limit, has to take the hospitalization under the COVID treatment as a part and parcel. Second, they come up with where they approve the various products in an efficient manner from the various reinsurance companies. Let us move to the other part of it. The property insurance, the insurance company keep moving. There was in the March 2020, they increased the rates of the property insurance by a significant amount because they were moving from the risk profiling part of it. So from the regulator perspective, in a nutshell, only sector which was affected was basically the health insurance, and they were up the curve in basically bringing a benefit to the insured, making it more structured product, having the base competitive pricing coming in by having the tariffs in place. So that is there. Rest all basically is the continuous journey which the regulator is also having regarding the other classes of insurance, of general insurance, and so on and so forth. I think regulator is working a very good job within the limitations what they have, but it's including IRDA or including in Africa, including in Dubai and whatnot be. So that is point number one regarding the regulator part of it. As far as the COVID is concerned, my friends, I think we should understand it from three perspectives, and I like to be brief so that we can take inputs of the other members as well. Point number one, the insurance sector, that is the insurance lines across the world, was struggling in the sense they were reeling under the pressure of the various NatCat events happening more frequently, the risk events coming much more frequently. The Lloyd's market has not been doing so well as they were doing in early 2000s. The corporate pie was seeing a consolidation between AXA, XL, and many others, to name a few. Therefore, the insurance sector was already under a pressure. There was a lot of consolidation happening. They were, trying to increase the risk-based premiums of the corporates. Now, with the COVID coming in, it hit their losses in a knee-jerk manner. That means there is a step function in increasing the risk, in increasing the cost of insuring, and hence it put a pressure on them. Like any other sector, this kind of pressure was passed on to the players who are taking the insurance. That means that across the risk, the policy takers, it impacted them by the increase in the cost, whether it is a marine line, whether it is a property line, whether it is basically the asset all risk or a construction all risk policies or the liability policies. Third important part, insurance contracts become more go through kind of stuff, if I can use that word. The kind of the demurrage clause in the contracts, the force majeure clause in the contract becomes a trigger point to be really looked into. So initially when the finance executives or the risk executives were looking into the insurance contract, these were basically pass through kind of a stuff. But with this crisis, with being the force majeure, I think the demurrage clauses, the force majeure clauses become the point of attraction, and there was a lot of debate happening between the insurance companies and the insured to do with that. And finally, about the brokers or the intermediary who providing the solutions, the market become even more tougher. The risk management became the important part of the writing the insurance. It is no more a sales, only the sales model. Therefore, the market become challenging because there were less lines, less appetite, more ask, more complexity of the risk, and hence the entire sector was taken as an opportunity to move ahead of the curve and go up the maturity. So it is an opportunity for the insurance sector with definitely the pressure behind, Pramod.
Thank you, Abhishek. Happy to note from you, listen from you that regulator did a good job. Myself being a regulator, so this kind of thing is a very rare to listen from the participants. So now I come to Mr. Bilal. So now we are talking the year. Now let's talk the century. What do you feel that insurance landscape is going to change for the needs of the 21st century? That in the 20th century, how you feel the landscape of the insurance industry is going to change with the specific focus on the international trade. That now what kind of changes you're looking finding that may be there in the landscape of the insurance for this century?
Sir, I have been in this industry for the last 15 years, right? And I rather started my career with trade credit insurance with one of the underwriters for one of the reinsurers by the name of Euler Hermes, right? When I started my career in 2006, right? And when I used to go to the corporates, right, the small and medium enterprises, right, and educating them about this trade receivables cover, right? They never used to buy this very product. In spite of the fact that they had seen a loss that in the last 5 years, one of the major buyers had defaulted, right? Delayed their payment, stopped their payment. But still, these SME corporates used to say that, Bilal, this single buyer is not affecting my balance sheet, right? And paying the premium will affect me rather more than not buying this insurance policy and insuring my losses, right? So up till 2018, I've seen the same kind of the perception of the corporates, right, who had been in the driving seat and were not insuring their receivables, right? But after the certain changes in the industry, right, wherein people were seeing a lot of defaults from the big corporates, right, they were running away and they were canceling the contracts, right? And there was a change in the perception of the people, right? And then they started buying this trade receivables insurance, right? Because the domino effect, which they felt that their immediate buyer was in a good condition, but he was ultimately supplying to the end user and where the money was not coming in, right? And he felt the pressure from the end customer, right? Which in return, he could not receive his money. So now what I'm seeing that in this very period of time, right? People are now looking forward to insure their receivables, right? Even the smallest of the corporate, right, is coming forward and looking forward to insure the receivables. But because of this lot of losses which has come up, right, as Abhishek rightly told us that the prices has gone up, right? We have seen in the last 2 years, the prices have gone up, right? Even the limits available on the buyer, that if at all you need a cover on the buyer, you need to have a limit available on the buyer. As like a bank sanction the limits, right? The insurance company also sanction a limit on the buyer on whom you need a cover for, right? So that also is being squeezed by the underwriters because of this COVID, right? A lot of industries like garment, like leather side, right? Steel side, right? These have gone on the longer side of the payment, right? Wherein the payment average payment cycle was 60 to 90 days. Now the payment has gone up to 120 days, right? Where the stores have closed down, where the companies have gone bankrupt. They have filed for Chapter 11, right? So the payment cycle has increased a lot, right? And people are getting a pressure on their working capital, right? But now I'm seeing that the changes has come, right? That the buyer, the exporters, or they're looking forward to get a cover for everything, right? And even nowadays, this the buying behavior of the customer is also being looked by the insurance company, right? That if at all they had losses in the past, right, they are squeezing them, right, and they're asking them to shell out more of the money, right? But as I'll say that now the perception of the corporates have changed. They're looking forward towards the insurance, right? Not only for their fixed assets, right, but the sundry debtors, which is an important part which plays in the balance sheet. People are looking forward to insure it. So the changes is coming, what I could see now, right?
Thank you, Bilal. I say I find that the lot of need for the insurance is getting generated, and a lot of activity getting insured, and the issue of the cost and benefits will always come. While the cost, then insurance companies they also have to be mindful of the cost factor if they have to enhance their business. Now, Mr. Avran Saran, now we are letting specifics. So, we'd like to ask from you that what are the credit insurance and business insurance schemes available to the traders, and how can an exporter avail the benefits of these schemes? Can you just explain on this the part in the specific issue?
Yeah, good evening once again. See, we have been doing the credit insurance. Okay, this credit insurance is entirely different from the business insurance. Like Mr. Bilal told, we have been analyzing the buyer. We are getting a report from the credit, some of the agencies who are in abroad, and analyzing the buyer and giving credit credit insurance cover to the customers. We have two vertical business. One is the cover for the exporter, another one is cover for the bankers. See, what the exporters, what we are doing, this the default of the buyer, insolvency of the buyer, and buyer's failure to accept the consignment in case of DP transaction. In the credit insurance, people know that what are the credit terms available. That is DA, document against acceptance, document against payment, DP, then direct delivery. Nowadays, all the buyers are asking direct delivery. That is more risky in the business than the DA or DP. This direct business or direct delivery, the exporter has to send the document directly to the buyer without bypassing through the bank. The buyer can easily take delivery of the consignment. It is more risky. So we give a cover to the exporters to cover these kind of risks. This insolvency, maybe nowadays, a lot of big buyers have gone into liquidation under Chapter 11 in US and other countries. We have been settling last year, for example, just I'm telling the number, 31st March is over by yesterday. We have paid 1,035 crore worth of claim to the exporters and bankers. Then that much default has, because of this COVID, this number of claims have increased to manyfold. More than 600 claims are still pending after settling by the ECGC. So commercial risk, insolvency, and default has gone up like anything. In addition to this risk, we have been giving cover of political risk, that is called this war or civil war risk, new import restriction. Now latest is Suez Canal. See, the shipment is to go one route. Because of some disturbances, the voyage has to diversify to different route. Then the exporter has to incur more cost for that. So that risk also we are covering. Then a new restriction imposed by the government in the buyer government, and then cancellation of valid contract. All these things we are covering under this credit insurance. Which insurance we are not covering is if there is any dispute in the goods, means due to the quality.
Okay. Voice is not coming. Hello?
See, I think we lost him, but I think what he was trying to motivate was the contractual risk, which is the commercial risk, is not covered.
Oh,
It
yes.
is basically the credit cover where you invoice it out and you have the credit. Is basically the coverage in that aspect. I think that is a very well point, and ECGC would definitely. He's back, yeah.
Yes, we are. I think you're mute.
Yeah, I think he's
You're
mute.
mute. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry, because the connection went away, and then it has come that side. So sorry. So this then default of the agent failure or loss or damage of the goods, because that will be covered by general insurance company. These are the covers we are not covering. We have 19 products with us, different products. Depends on the customer's need, they can take the cover. So if you approach a customer, or if a customer approaches us, first we will explain what are the products available. Depends on the needs, he can take. See, if he wants only cover for one shipment, we call it specific shipment policy. We are ready to give cover. The same way, if we want one buyer to be covered, we are ready to give cover. They want to cover only on exposure, then exposure-based policy cover we have. Like that, what are all kind of policy? We have special product for MSMEs also. MSME, 95% of our customers are MSME customers. So we all kind of covers we are having, depends on the needs of the customer, we are ready to provide. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sir. Explaining the various kind of insurance products which are available for the different sectors of the economy, like SME, big export, or otherwise. That's good. Coming to Mr. Abhishek, this crop insurance, how the ecosystem of that is playing. We are now talking specifically about the trade insurance, disease risk insurance. Crop insurance, can you just throw some light on that? Because that is also a big issue in India, the crop insurance.
Yes. See, crop insurance is becoming an ecosystem to play around in India, in all emerging markets. It has been prevalent in the western part of the world for long now. Now, what are the elements of crop insurance? The crop insurance basically insures the farmer, as the definition says, insure the farmers against the yield or the any kind of peril-based cover, which is the hails, rainfall, less rainfall, and so on and so forth. So there are predominantly two products which are available, and that is basically give a cover to the farmer. Now, in an ecosystem, whether it is India where the government is working, whether it is the eastern, other eastern part or the part of the Africa, this ecosystem needs one, the risk aggregator. The risk aggregator can be a government. For example, in India, it can be a government, depending upon, or in Africa, in Zambia, it is a government. In South Africa, it is not the government. It has to be a risk takers like any banker, any fund house. In Western countries, the crop insurance works only on the fund house basis. Second, we need a reinsurance company who basically underwrites that complexity of the risk because it is a non-linear product. Then we have the fronting insurance partners. Then we have, of course, the parties who are going to get insured. Any risk solutions company which can bind this insurance ecosystem will be instrumental in making the crop insurance work. Now, how does it happen? Let's take an example of India. In India, there are a lot of startups, including the existing companies like probably, I can make Agri Value Chain or Agri Chain in the Australia, Agri Task from the Israel, is basically becoming an enabler to create that ecosystem. One. Second, reinsurance like AXA XL, along with the Munich Re and Swiss Re are coming together, working with the government to have the policies and support for that, because we need risk integrators. So it is an ecosystem, point number one. Everybody has to play a role, point number two. Major important role is played by the ecosystem creator using a technology, because you need a retrospective data of crop, acreage, weather, so on and so forth, and prospective data as we move further. Therefore, if you have this ecosystem, the crop insurance is going to be a future which is already being started in execution in India, in rest of the other emerging markets, and Western, it has to be proven to be successful as well.
Thank you. Now, going back to Mr. Anand, can you use the new developments and the good point which have happened with the insurance, so the diversified business can insure their trades now in the coming time? The diversified business being the diversified business, how they can insure, and what are the specific insurance products for that available?
Yeah, see, there have been some insurances which I guess, as I mentioned earlier, have got a prominence now. For example, let's look at our businesses. Few insurances which I guess were not even earlier tapped, like cyber attack or information technology, probably because of the digital transformation, they have got a precedence. Or obviously out here in UAE, you talk of GLPA, which is the group life personal accident policy, which now covers COVID. So that has got into prominence. The other policy which have got prominence is obviously the marine policy, because for this very simple reason that with the foodstuffs coming here, it takes time. So that policy again has its own prominence nowadays. And then finally, you have the great trade receivable, the credit risk policy, which Bilal was mentioning. And that is required. But the point I'm driving here is, and this is what I've seen that over the last 12 months is, well, you have so many policies here. Few of them which I mentioned have got prominence. But specific to the diversified businesses, the mistake which people are making when people like me who decide, as I said, I'm from other side of the insurance portfolio. I talk to the brokers and finalize the policies. Now, the mistake which people do make is they probably equate same policy for every business. Now, that's a big mistake. So when you finalize an insurance product or a policy, the few of them which I mentioned, it is extremely important that you must relate to your business. Otherwise, for example, for a construction company, you probably can't go for a trade receivable policy. So these are few things. Well, as a group CFO or someone who's managing the business and handling and deciding on the insurances, must decide and must consider. Otherwise, you'll end up with a complete mess.
Thank you. Now let's turn towards the technology part of the insurance. Mr. Bilal, I will come to you. That what are technological benefits in the insurance industry? What are the technological things that are being used? What are the technical benefits are coming in the insurance industry? You can explain that.
So normally the general insurance industry is distributed into two aspects. One is the retail part, which you and I as an individual buy the insurance product. And one is for the corporates, right, wherein they buy the insurance, right? So the technological advancement which is yet to be seen is in the retail side, right? Because India has a population of more than 135 crores, right? And the penetration of this insurance policy is yet not there. There are many distribution channels, right, which the insurance company has come up with, right? But the penetration is yet not there to the remotest of the area, right? If at all, I'll ask, if at all you belong to a small town and you have now come up, and I ask you that how many people do you know in your small town that they have bought the COVID policy, right? I think hardly you can name 10 of them, right? That Bilal, yes, I know that 10 of them in my old town, right? They have bought this 10 policy, right? So the technological advancement has to be there, wherein they can reach out to the individuals, right? Because we are living in the metro cities, right? We are able to understand this very product, right? And we are able to buy it. But as Abhishek was saying about crop insurance, right? It has to be the farmer who has to buy this product, right? And all of the farmers are not going for the crop loan, wherein the bankers make them to buy this crop insurance, right? So I basically belong to Bihar, right? And I have not seen my farmers in my areas, right, who are buying for this crop insurance. So I think the technology has to be there, right, to reach out to the remotest of the people in the remotest of the town, right, wherein they can buy this for themselves, the health insurance product, the motor insurance, right, or be it crop insurance, right? So the technology is yet to be on that very part, right, wherein we can see that the insurance penetration is reaching out to the remotest of the area. And that is why you know that the regulatory body here in India has increased the percentage of FDI investment from 49 to 74. Because until unless the investment is not going to be there, the investment on these things are not going to be done, right? And then people only who are living in a metro or a B or a C grade cities are going to understand this very product and take the benefit of it. But yet, I say that there has been a lot of changes, right? People can buy the policy, the individual policy with a click of a button, right? But still, the insurance companies are not educating the people in the remotest of the area, wherein I think the technological platform can help a lot, right? And if at all that is done, right, we all would be happy, right?
Pramod, I'd like to add here, I think from the commercial insurance perspective, see, though Bilal has touched on the retail insurance, I'll talk about insurtech platforms that is being coming in foray on the commercial side of it.
Okay.
That will be the new normal. Before I get there, I think 2 points we need to consider. Anything which needs to be digitized need to have less of variables and less of constraints. That means the commercial insurance policies needs to be understood from the SMEs and MSMEs perspective. In India, it makes a lot of sense. From the bigger risk perspective, it is more structured and it has to be tailor-made. So let's park it for the time being. From the MSMEs perspective and SMEs perspective, right now, there are only 3 pillars for insurance management. One, ease of policy placement, right policy, low cost by disintermediation as much as possible. Now, how it is happening, if you remember, the Policy Bazaar came in probably 15, 20 years back, right? On the retail side of it, though they have the commercial also side of it. The objective was very simple: aggregate, ease, disintermediation, and low cost. So commercial insurance for SMEs, MSMEs, with the regulatory framework. I mean, I would like to highlight the point in January this year, and starting from today, the regulator has come up with the policies for MSMEs, property insurance, the guidelines, which says between this and this should be the bracket, and this. So which is regulation is getting there. So regulator is enabling that ecosystem. Blockchain, sorry, not blockchain, artificial intelligence and the machine learning based platform like Flyreels of the world, where the startups are there, need to enable it. And as a result of that, it will be a cost saving for the SMEs, MSMEs, and they will definitely going to come back to it. So,
right. Leverage already that looking for the sandbox mechanism to innovate and the use of technology and how it can be innovated. So, Abhishek, when you come in, blockchain, you can throw some light on the blockchain, how it can be enabled for the global management running. That blockchain, how it can impact the.
Okay. See, the insurance is a put contract. It is about the contract which a put option which the insured take from the insurance company, and everything is a legal contract. In a any legal contract, one is the rules of the game, flow of the information between the various value chain participant, where your risk moves from one point, from one value chain participant to other point to the other value chain participant. And the important thing is when the data is moving from one value chain participant in terms of an object to the other value chain participant, the authenticity, reliability, and integrity of the data moving across is very, very important. Blockchain helps to do that. Blockchain is a technology which ensures all 3 things. And that is the reason if I look at the global market, marine lines are getting into blockchain because specifically in marine lines, freight lines, I'm talking about insurance lines, the risk moves from one point to other point in one object to other object. Therefore, all 3 things which I talked about, transparency, reliability, and integrity of a data, you need a technology platform, and blockchain is already a game changer. The people are collaborating. People mean in the sense I'm talking about the reinsurance companies are collaborating together to be a part of the blockchain in order to, one, not to bleed on account of the frauds. Second, optimization of the operational cost that comes in data exchange and the documentation exchange. And third is basically better risk profiling of a counterparty of an insured by having the database of the insurance insured in a central repository. Otherwise, the fraud and the misrepresentation of the insurance insured is the norm in every part of the world. So blockchain is definitely going to help us, and it's helping. Didn't fly as quickly as the insurance company was expecting. AXA came up with the blockchain technology of doing it. I mean, they withdrew it because the cost efficiency was not there. But I think the other players are working on it to get it to the next level.
Okay. Then we have to actually LTD move to that technology we have to use. Now I'll like to ask Mr. Banar sir. That to be this is like this concept we are having for the Indo-US, India, UAE trade insurance. So what I'm asking the question to you, what are the difficulties faced in UAE to avail insurance, and how these difficulties can be? Is there any difficulties in getting the insurance in the UAE, or if it is so, then how this can be overcome?
Sir, I will talk about only Indian this one
Okay.
because I don't know about UAE. What are the
Okay.
they are facing?
Okay. Then,
Okay.
can you just explain that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I will talk. See, normally the commercial risks are covered based
Okay.
on based on the buyer's
Okay.
buyer's financial strength. Okay, we will fix a overall limit. Mr. Bilal has explained.
Okay.
On any buyer, we will fix a overall limit. To fix a overall limit on one buyer, we require the criteria, we call it as a scorecard system based on the business ability of the buyer and the transaction behavior of the particular buyer.
Okay.
Then what is the industrial practice? Then mostly most importantly, the financial strength of the buyer. Okay, so this we get it from an agency.
Okay.
What in India, what we are facing, it is very difficult to get a financial details from the Middle Eastern countries, UAE, particularly UAE, this Dubai and other Middle East countries. We won't get financial details. So without financial details, our scorecard will not give more score to the particular buyer. Because of that, we will get less score and give less limit to the particular buyer. Then if so many exporters are coming and asking a limit on say XYZ buyer, if our scorecard doesn't allow, then we may not be in a position to give cover to that particular buyer. That is the difficulties we are facing. But still, it will be very difficult to cover because it is the law of that country. Same way, the claim experience, if we see next to USA and the UK and Germany, UAE is the fourth claim payment last 10 years. Our claim means the same way what we are covering. The fifth, the UAE is positioning the fifth, claim experience also in fifth. But what difficulties we are facing in India is we cannot go legally because the system won't allow to go file a suit on the buyer who are in Middle East country because that law protect the citizen of that country. These are the difficulties. Otherwise, okay, that payment experience with UAE and the is good only because the country is also good. We are placing that country in A2 because we have a 7-fold classification in our grading system. So A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, and D. These are the 7-fold. Under this fold, UAE is placing UAE and Dubai, all these countries are coming under A2 only. That means country-wise, it's a good only. Individually, buyer-wise, if we see, then based on the financial strength, we will give more score to the particular buyer and give more limit to them. Okay.
Now we have got 12 minutes with us in the scheduled time. So we'll go to the last question and quickly we'll go to that. Coming back to you, Mr. Anand, that you are the group CFO of handling diversified businesses. What do you think that are there other ways in which you can ensure trade and safeguard your trade? Can you think of some innovative thing into that?
Yes, I've always considered insurance as one of the options in the COVID times to ensure your trade. But I will not put my money completely on it. I won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So going back, then what I should do? Well, here's the solutions. As a business CFO and the group CFO, I need to run my businesses, what my P&L says, as basic as this. Well, that's one. Two, I must know the knowledge of the business, at least from commercial and financial perspective. And I also should be very comfortable dealing with suppliers, customers, have empathy towards them, work with them. And that's how you ensure your trade. But the most critical part, Pramod, which I've seen, which have really helped me at least, is dealing with your internal stakeholders, dealing with external stakeholders, whether it's banks, and it needs different skills altogether in current times. You need to be well prepared. You need to have right analysis. You need to be in the position to speak the way your board understands. What works for one business doesn't work for another one. And one thing which I've seen, which I want to share here is, you can definitely insure your trade. You can definitely insure your money more if you are more vigilant financially, internally within the operations, which means when you're dealing with your stakeholders, the board, and you want to buy in from them on various decisions, not only that, you're required to speak in the language in which they understand. That's critical. No questions on this. The second point is, please make your board, please make your ownership equally aware of the worst case scenario. Paranoid succeed. In these times, paranoid succeed. The CFOs who can give us solutions and who can show to their board that they have made efforts dealing with external stakeholders, dealing with internal stakeholders, and have arrived at a solution. Now, Pramod, in these times, let's not talk about a perfect solution. It could be a half-baked solution. It could be an imperfect solution. It could be a midway solution. And so be it. So long as you're in the position to provide your board and the ownership with the various solutions and demonstrate to them that you have made sincere efforts, I'm pretty sure that's the right way you ensure your trade internally. I'm not discounting the insurance mechanism, but as I said, as a group CFO, I'm not going to put my all money on an insurance to save what I'm supposed to do. I better do myself first correctly. That's my solution. I hope it helps.
Pramod, just to add scientifically on that, see, we have a product which takes the AED, that is annual aggregate deductible there, right? So let's say if I'm covering a risk of 5 million, if I do the 3 million risk as an annual aggregate deductible, that makes sure that I put what Anand was saying, the internal risk management processes, controls and checks there to absorb that. And for the excess risk, you go out to the insurance company. Therefore, scientifically, you don't have to always rely on the insurance companies. You can build it from organically, build the risk management there, and thereafter, claim it back to the insurance companies.
Because in the current times, your organizations internally will have to do well. Otherwise, you will keep doing covers and you will make mess. Insurance is not a panacea, not a solution for all the problems which we are combating currently.
Your own internal assessment and risk mechanism very clear, and even the owner need to be educated about the black swan event also. That something may be wrong, and we should be ready for that kind of activity. Abhishek, you already mentioned just because it may be maybe a bit controversial issue also. But quickly, I will like to consider in a short of time that technology, how is going to impact the disintermediation? Is it going to make the disintermediation? Because this is a very controversial issue. People always say that believing the technology, it will make so many people redundant. We see in the capital market that online trading came and all the jobbers and these people became redundant into the system and what to do. So what do you feel about that thing?
Okay. See, disintermediation or intermediation works fine when the product is not a generic product. Disintermediation is required when it is a specific product. Otherwise, disintermediation will always face a problem, whether it is a banking industry or a insurance industry. So 10 years back, we started with the fintech revolution. 5 years back, we started with the insurance tech revolution. We have all the startups trying to cater to disintermediate this insurance value chain where the product are a generic product with less variables. Whether it is placing a health insurance policy to the end customer, there are the regulatory boundaries, one. The variables are and self-declarations are there, second. So you disintermediate it automatically. For SMEs, MSMEs, you can do it for all asset insurance. You can do it for the construction linked policies, but not for the marine one specifically. Therefore, to answer your question, Pramod, it has to be looked into the perspective. If the asset specificity, quote unquote, is very high for that insurance, then it cannot be disintermediated. And if anybody is working on that, it is very, very difficult. I'm not saying in this present world, anything is impossible. If it is a more of a generic one, go for it, do it. And one more thing before I close, the disintermediation cost in the insurance industry is ranging from 7% to 22%.
Okay.
Right. So this is a huge margin, and everybody is doing a job. I'm not even questioning, whether for that amount of the commission, somebody is working on it. So everybody is doing a job, but I'm saying it can definitely be brought down significantly by digitization and understanding the value chain, and at least cut it by half.
Okay.
Over to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you very much. That's good. Mr. Belal, can you just tell me the impact of big data and AI on the future of insurance? Because the technology is bound to come, and we cannot push that away. So what impact is going to have on the customer experience also from all perspectives? Can you tell me very quickly, because we are short of time?
So, sir, see, the artificial intelligence should come in, right? As Abhishek told in that the blockchain is helping a lot in terms of marine programs, right? So in terms of trade credit, let's say there is one buyer, right, who is defaulting to one of the exporter, right? And this data is published at a platform wherein all the exporters are able to see it, right? They will get to know that this buyer has defaulted, right? Then they should stop their credit line to this very buyer, right? Mm-hmm. So such kind of thing should be developed, right? But it needs, in India, it's taking a lot of time, right? And because of which the claims fraud, which Abhishek was talking about, right, can get a hold of, right? And the insurance industry can themselves get benefited. Still, today I see that there are single claims which has been filed with 2 companies, right? So if at all on the common platform, if all the insurance company can see about that very thing, that if at all this claim has been filed with anyone else or not, right? And they get to know that this has been filed with someone else, right? So a lot of check and balance can be done with this help of artificial intelligence and the blockchain, right? And definitely, as one of the insurance expert, I'm looking forward to this implementation, right? And definitely it can help a lot.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anwar Hassan, that's what is your view about digitization? How do you want to impact the same thing in the technology? How do you want to impact the insurance industry? Let us have your view also.
Yeah, see, any technology has both the side of coin, advantages and disadvantages. I think Mr. Bilal may be the correct person, because in general insurance company it is prevailing. The people can easily refer to the Policy Bazaar or so many other mode of this one and compare the cap. As far as credit insurance concerned, is yet to come. So far, no people have digitalized, because it will be legally the documents and other things have to be vetted. So we are not yet come up with digitalization. We are also developing now only. Our IT teams are doing. It may take time for another year. So other credit insurance also, they have not come with digitalization. Only now, so far we have been issuing the documents through hard copy only.
Okay.
So that is
Pramod, I'm a very big fan of digitization. I'll take a minute there. See, the digitization needs to be understood from 2 aspects. Digitization of the workflow. That means you are doing it from outside in perspective.
That's right.
Blockchain enabler, automation enabler. Second is from the credit insurance perspective or from other perspective, AI and machine learning helps to profile your counterparties much better. If we put much of emphasis in using the technology to do that, and then we can achieve it. And lastly, these AIs and machine learning helps the user experience and engagement very high. So use technology. InsurTech is the next way going forward, and it is going to be a game changer and disrupting the entire insurance industry for sure.
Thank you. Right. So now we have to conclude the last, let us have the last concluding remarks from. Let's start with Mr. Anand.
Well, I am the odd man out, but so be it. So, well, I'm very clear that, yes, you need insurances in business, but, well, if you're handling businesses, look at other areas also and work together. And I would strongly recommend that the way you insure your trade is be internally efficient, be internally accountable. And I believe in the 4 Ps, which I keep repeating: passion, persistence, perseverance, and patience. These four are important. So important when you run your own businesses. So I rather will go for my in-house skills to protect ensure my trade rather than banking on insurance. I'm not discounting them, but I've been very pragmatic because you need pragmatism and you need paranoids to navigate through this mayhem of COVID.
I completely agree with you on that. Insurance is not a replacement for the internal efficiency and the controls. You have to be efficient and have a control over there. Insurance can supplement it, but you can't replace it.
Perfect. There you are. Spot on. Spot on.
Abhishek, your last concluding.
Three words, 3 lines there. Take the right insurance,
Okay.
but not as the fallback or only as a fallback. Second, raise the technology for getting insurance and placing insurance. And third, understand one thing, your price or the cost is going to go up if you don't respect the insurance industry.
These are all the 3. These are very good, but very difficult to implement. Mr. Bilal.
So as Anand sir said that he is looking forward for his internal skills, right, to run the business, right? But I would say that the people who are running the business, they are good at that, right? But any catastrophic losses which can come up, right, can only be covered through insurance. And we in India are seeing a lot of catastrophic losses which are coming up, right? And which, if at all, they would have self-insured, their balance sheet would have really run out of it, right? So we as an insurance consultant, right, we have done a lot of research, right? And we say that India still is facing a lot of catastrophic losses. So people should look forward to insure their assets, right? And we as an insurance consultant should give the right piece of advice to the people, right? And should look forward for this technology platform to be an enabler for buying insurance.
That is very important part, that educating the industry and the people who take the insurance, and what kind of insurance should be taken and what not. That's very, very important. And the cost benefit analysis need to be explained to the people that what they're entering into and what the cost for that and what they're ultimately going to get out of that thing. Mr. Anubharasan, your concluding remarks.
Yeah, see, other people have already covered, like other people told, every trade has inherent risk. So insurance is the protector for that. So all the traders or exporters, it's better to have insurance cover to protect their risk. The risk may arise at any time. So COVID is the one example. The Suez problem is the another example. So like that, see, so many political turmoils are going in our neighboring countries. These are the examples. So to protect us from all these risks, better all the traders have to take any insurance, whether it is a credit insurance or any other insurance. That is my advice. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving us the.
It's great to listen from you. And Mr. Anand, you're not the only odd man out. I'm also odd man out.
Yes.
I mean, it's fine to be an odd man out, and I think the organizers have done a great service by having such a great panel where you have one odd man out, 2 from the insurance, so and yourself, Mr. Pramod, also. So I think it's a very diversified panel. So unless you have people with divergent views, otherwise, we all will speak like a parrot and supporting each other. So I really like this great panel, and with this expertise.
I have already overshoot the time. I thank all the panelists for their candid and very frank discussion and giving a good insight about the industry, what they're doing, what the issue. We generally people don't speak in that candid manner. And certainly, I believe that the viewers, the more than 4,000, I understand that more than 4,000 viewers are there and connected to this seminar. Must have certainly been benefit out of the wisdom coming out from the panelists. And I hope that they will get benefit and it will be useful to them. And I thank all the panelists for their very, very insightful discussion. And the viewers for being patient. We have not got any question to that. And I conclude this session and hand over the things to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to know all of you. And thank you, the viewers, organizers, for having such a great conference.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. It's only people like you who make such a conference successful. I'm sure it was such a value addition for all our viewers. So this is the last session of the TRGCC conference. I just wanted to update everybody that we've had 4,000 plus viewers for our platform, and we have a huge positive response coming in through mails. And I feel that we have achieved the objective of, so we've achieved one step towards our objective of spreading awareness among people about digitalization and blockchain technology. So yes, I would like to thank each one of you, Pramod sir, for so smoothly moderating the entire session, Bilal ji for your inputs, Anand ji for your inputs as well, and Mr. Abhishek and Anbarasan for enlightening us with your knowledge. So yes, and with this, I would like to conclude TRGCC, this conference. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
very
Bye-bye.
Thank you from our side also.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.